And we're back for the 10 o'clock hour, folks. And as promised, we are delivering to you from the archives the one and only, the icon, Dr. James Weiner, the man who the center was named for, the man who was the first medical freedom pioneer in the country, I think. He goes way back, folks, with medical freedom, with the freedom to choose. Vaccine safety was one of his very passionate topics, Dr. James Weiner. So, as promised, during the James Weiner Memorial Wellness Week, we're going to bring you one of his greatest hits on brain health. Here he is, Dr. James Weiner, and then we'll finish up the hour with Dr. Orbach.
Anyone here have neurological problems like memory loss, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's? No? Okay. Do you know anyone that has those problems? Okay, you do. All right. How many here are on at least one prescription medication? Okay. How many people are on more than one prescription medication? Anyone here on cholesterol medication? Cholesterol medication?
No more.
Oh, okay, he's not on cholesterol medication now. That's good. All right, because we have to talk about toxicity, which includes chemicals, pesticides, toxic metals, and we also have to talk about drug toxicity. The third leading cause of death in the United States is properly prescribed medications. Now, we're not telling you to get off your medications, those of you that are on medications, but we're trying to explain that there are consequences because medications are not specific for a condition. That may surprise you. Okay, what they do is they interfere with the body's natural functioning to suppress symptoms. So they're not actually curing anything. Now, in some cases, they may be trying to make up for a deficiency. If you have underactive thyroid and you take Synthroid or Armour Thyroid or Cytomel, something like that. Or if you have sugar diabetes, maybe you're taking insulin. But most drugs, what they do is actually interfere with the body's natural functioning. And one of the epidemics we're having now is Alzheimer's disease. Probably all of you have heard of it. It was basically a rarity when I was a kid. I can name two people that I think had Alzheimer's disease. One was a friend of my father's who was a clothing salesman, represented a manufacturer. My father was in the clothing business, that's how I knew this guy. And we actually met him when we went to Atlantic City. I mean, my father knew him, but I met him. And this guy basically was physically fine, mentally had no idea what was going on. You know, he'd ask his wife, is it hot or cold out? I don't think he knew what the words even meant anymore. What happened to him was that he was on his usual route, driving to various cities to see various clients, and he got to this one city where he had stayed at the hotel many times before, and then he was just sitting in the lobby for hours. And the staff knew him, went up to him, and they could tell he was like totally out of it. And they called his wife, and she actually drove with their other car to whatever city he was in. And that was the end of his working days. Fortunately, his employer really appreciated him and kept paying him his base salary, even though he couldn't work anymore. So that's one person that had Alzheimer's disease, although we didn't call it that then. The other one was a teacher I had in high school. Her name was Kasnitz, and I had heard about her for years from friends of mine and my older sister who had gone to Taylor Alderdice High School. And this woman did all kinds of very bizarre things in the classroom, and people actually never had a real lesson. She was too busy hitting kids, kicking them. And guess what? When I got into 9th grade, I ended up having Miss Kasnitz myself, and it was absolutely amazing what went on in that room. And she couldn't remember anyone's name, so a friend of mine and I actually bought her plants. My friend's mom said, why don't you go and buy her some plants and give her some plants and maybe she'll remember your name. She didn't remember her name. And the way she graded was she decided no one deserved an A, So she'd go down the alphabet. You know, she had a list of the kids that were in each class, and she'd go B, C, D, F, B, C, D, F. That's how she graded. And we actually never really had a class. She was just running around the room, hitting people, kicking people. I mean, that couldn't happen today. They wouldn't allow teachers to, you know, slap kids and hit them with rulers and kick their ankles. And some of the kids to run away from her would jump out the window because it was on the first floor. It was only about a 6-foot drop. On the second floor annex, they actually had moved Miss Cass's room to across from the vice principal so they could keep an eye on her. I know what she did the year before. A friend of mine told me this story. It was amazing that the student projectionist came in to run a film on Alaska. And there was something defective with the projector, that the sound wasn't working. So he told Miss Kasnitz, the sound is defective on this machine. There's nothing wrong with the film. I've played this film before. I'm going to go across the hall and get another machine. And she said, no, just run the film. And he said, well, Miss Kasnitz, the students aren't going to understand the film. They're just going to see pictures. And she said, I don't care. And then she had them write an essay about it. And of course, all they saw was pictures. They had no idea the content of the film. Crazy thing. So that was the other person I knew who had Alzheimer's. But now Alzheimer's is actually an epidemic. And you might wonder why people are having it. We do have on the spindle there across from where we have the food, a cholesterol packet. And it talks about some of the side effects of cholesterol medication, which of course includes sugar diabetes, congestive heart failure, ironically, because people are taking cholesterol medication for their heart, and yet it can actually damage their heart. Liver damage, muscle damage, etc. And one of the side effects is Alzheimer's disease. And there's an article in there, first page of an article, about a man in his early 50s who totally lost his mind, didn't even know who he was. So this is very, very common, where people are getting older. Chuck Noll just recently died, the great Steelers football coach. He had Alzheimer's disease. It's hard to think of someone who was that smart getting Alzheimer's disease. Now, I have no idea whether he was on cholesterol medication, but this is something that's happening. How about the water? The water is full of contaminants. Chlorine and fluoride and all kinds of other contaminants. How about our food with pesticides? We'll talk about that in a minute in relationship to neurological problems.
The air we breathe.
How about, well, the air we breathe, exactly, and the aluminum that they put in the clouds to try to make cloud cover, so that, they're worried about global warming. And I noticed we had blue skies this whole week, and there were no chemtrails. But this summer, there were plenty of chemtrails. You'll see these planes going across the sky, and then the trail of smoke gets wider and wider and wider. That's a chemtrail. If it's a commercial airliner that's flying to the airport, you'll see that as the plane flies, it's a thin ribbon, and that ribbon dissipates. But if it's a chemtrail, the ribbon of white smoke gets wider and wider, and eventually the whole sky is cloudy. And you start out with a blue day, and suddenly now it's cloudy. And you're breathing that. How about the incinerator at East Liverpool, Ohio, 45 miles from here, dumping hundreds of tons of chemicals? Yes?
Somebody had a question about gallbladder. You recommended Betazyme and something else?
Betazyme, maybe the liver gallbladder tincture that we have. So we have all kinds of toxins. We know aluminum is directly connected to Alzheimer's disease. How about using aluminum antiperspirants under your arms? How about aluminum cookware? I was at a friend's house, and she was making dinner, and one of the pots was aluminum. So when she cleaned out the pot, I said, I want you to look at this pot. It's all pitted. And she goes, why did that happen? I said, well, the acids from the food are eating up the aluminum. The aluminum's getting in the food. So if you have aluminum cookware, throw it out. When I found out about this in the early 1970s, I had a brand new set of cookware I bought the year before. I threw it out. It was all aluminum. I had wanted to get stainless steel, and the salesman said, well, you just graduated from college, you don't have much money, you're paying back student loans, get the aluminum. So instead of stainless steel, I got aluminum. Then the next year I found out about aluminum, I threw the pots out in the dumpster of the apartment building. So This is a major factor in causing Alzheimer's disease. You might also have nutritional deficiencies or poor circulation to the brain. Maybe you have clogged arteries. You know, they have the bypass surgery for your heart, but if your heart arteries are clogging up, maybe the arteries to other organs, including your brain, are clogging up. You're not getting enough circulation. A lot of people have clogged carotid arteries in their neck, and that's how the blood gets to the brain. Of course, you can reverse clogged arteries through diet. We have a book called Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease by Dr. Esselstyn, who's at the Cleveland Clinic, and he has pictures before and after heart catheterization showing how the arteries cleaned out through switching to a vegan, vegetarian, low-fat diet. We also have products like CircuFlow and Radflea, a lot of different products that can help clean out your arteries, Natican Plus, lumbrokinase. And this cleans out the arteries throughout the entire body. So your diet can be causing clogged arteries that then creates poor circulation and poor oxygen flow to your brain. The brain functions mainly on oxygen and blood sugar. Speaking of low blood sugar, a lot of people have low blood sugar. And this can cause all kinds of neurological problems. Mood swings, panic attacks, trouble sleeping at night, low energy. And so we have a product called Insinase that can help manage that, although we have treatments that can actually improve or correct it. Functional improvement treatments that I do in the office. Of course, you have to make an appointment for that. And I was mentioning about pesticides. I had a patient years ago who came to me. He and his wife had gone on a vacation to South Carolina, and they had rented a townhouse. And they awakened the next morning. They woke up the next morning, awakened the next morning, and the doorbell rang. They were getting ready to go out to the beach, and this man came in, and he said, I'm the pesticide guy, and I'm going to spray the baseboards, etc. And they said, well, we'll be out in about 10 minutes. As soon as we're done with breakfast, we're going to leave. And he says, well, I can do it while you're here. They said, are you sure it's safe? He said, yeah. So he started spraying around the baseboards in the kitchen, the dining room, and all the other rooms of the apartment. The next day, this man started having trouble walking. Not the pesticide guy, but the husband of the husband and wife that were vacationing. And within a couple days, he ended up in a wheelchair, and he's never walked since. Because what pesticides do is paralyze the nervous system of insects, and apparently somehow he got exposed to it. I don't know how much, maybe got in the air and maybe he breathed it, or maybe it got in the food that he was eating. Now, fortunately, his wife did not become paralyzed, but he's been paralyzed for over 20 years now. Of course, you're eating a lot of foods that have pesticide residue. A friend of mine said, oh, we're going to take a drive this week and we're going to go get apples out in the country. I said, you better beware, because most of those apples are probably highly sprayed. I took a ride with some friends of mine some years ago, and we stopped at an orchard, and they were going to buy all these apples. And then I asked the lady who was selling them, I said, do you spray your trees? She said, oh, we spray them every day, from the time the flowers come on them until we pick the fruit. So even though it's in the country, or if you go to a farmer's market, you may be getting a lot of pesticides on your food. It's not necessarily organic. And these are poisons that can affect the function of your nervous system. And I have found that every person I've seen with ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease has had toxic metals or chemical or pesticide exposure. So we really need to talk about detox, and we'll get into that. But you may have nutritional deficiencies. Of course, if you're on cholesterol medication I mentioned earlier, you must take coenzyme Q10. And I would recommend the Nutritional Frontiers Power Q Null, because it's the best absorbed of all the CoQs. Power Q Null, at least 1 or 2 a day. I take it every day, and I'm on no medications. Also, a lot of people that have musculoskeletal problems, nervous system problems, are lacking minerals. We know the soil is very depleted of minerals. And so you should consider taking Frontier Minerals 3 a day. Frontier Minerals 3 a day. I couldn't pass out all the literature. We have literature on every single product from Nutritional Frontiers, but I don't want to burden you with a lot of different items, so we just have about the 2 that are for the memory, which I'll get into. Also, B complex vitamins, very important. We have the Stressplex from Douglas Labs. And if you're on diuretics or water pills, you're washing out your minerals, you're washing out your B vitamins. And vitamins need to be replaced every day. Most of them are not stored in the body. The B vitamins are not stored in the body. So taking Stressplex, very, very important for your nervous system. If you have tingling or numbness, maybe you have diabetic neuropathy or other types of neuropathy, tingling, numbness, we have a new product called Neuropathies, Neuropathiese, Neuropathies. Highly effective. I recommend 3 a day. You've got something in your hand. What do you Well, the B complex, you can get the B complex. Okay, we have it in from Nutritional Frontiers. You can do the Nutritional Frontiers B complex. I thought we were out of stock, so we got it back in. Well, there are 2 different formulas. Yeah, we're out of the one. I didn't realize we got that one back in. So we have the B complex from Nutritional Frontiers. Then we have the Brain Boost and IQity. These are 2 formulas that I put together to help with memory. As I said, you may have low blood sugar and that's affecting your memory. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you may have a memory problem. But we've actually had people reverse the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease with using the Brain Boost 3 a day and the IQity 3 a day. Brain Boost 3 a day, IQity 3 a day.
What's the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's?
Well, dementia, Alzheimer's is basically the same thing, where people can't remember things. After a while, they may not even know who they are. And then they may not even be able to function properly. I had a relative who was at a nursing home. I didn't know she was there. I hadn't seen this woman in many years. What happened was one of my patients happened to be working at this nursing home, and she wanted me to visit it. So I went there on my day off one Thursday, and we toured the whole place. And just as we were waiting for the elevator to go down back to the main floor, I noticed across the hall a name of a woman. And I said, wait a minute, I have a relative, a distant relative by that name. And so they knocked on the door, and there was a nurse feeding this woman because she wasn't able to feed herself anymore, and they said she had late-stage Alzheimer's or late-stage dementia. And she was a relative of mine. I hadn't seen her in years. I couldn't even recognize her, but it was interesting. They got me in touch with her daughter, who's this distant cousin of mine, and she ended up having a 90th birthday party for this lady in the facility. And they had a montage of pictures from when she was younger, and then I recognized the pictures, the way she looked when I knew her as a kid. And they wheeled her in for a few minutes, and they wheeled her out. She didn't even know who she was. She didn't know who her daughter was. It's very pathetic what happens to people. And a lot of times it's from toxins or from the medications.
Gertrude.
Okay, you have an appointment, I guess. All right, so we have the Brain Boost, we have the IQity. These are 2 products that can help with mental clarity. You don't have to have Alzheimer's disease to take these products. People always marvel at how good my memory is while I'm taking these products. So even if your memory is pretty good and you're, normal, you know who you are, you know who your family is, doesn't mean you can't benefit from these products. So you don't have to be ill or have a serious condition to take nutrients to optimize your brain function. Now we talked a little about detox, and we have various detox products. One of the things that I really like that's a nutritional product that gives you a lot of nutrition but also detoxes is the lean greens. It's a powder. I take it in my super shake every day. I don't know, some of you may have noticed when I came in about half an hour ago, they had a big glass mug, and it was kind of chocolate colored because it had chocolate super shake. It had the reds, the purples, and the greens, power fuel, and brewer's yeast. That's my cocktail that I take first thing in the morning. The brewer's yeast is another way of getting B vitamins. Let's hold off questions till the end, sir. And then, of course, the Power Fuel has coenzyme Q10, as I mentioned, as well as D-ribose. And then the reds, the purples, and greens have a lot of nutritional value, especially the greens. They're very detoxifying. If you've been on medications, you may want to consider Live Clear 1 or Live Clear 2. LIV, like liver, Live Clear 1, Live Clear 2. You can actually take both. They help detoxify chemicals in your body. You have to understand, a lot of these chemicals, a lot of these drugs have only existed for 20, 30, 40 years. Your liver has no way to detoxify because when God created our liver, these chemicals did not exist. That's why a lot of times people are on medications, and even if they stop the medications, they still have the side effects because their liver's not able to detoxify these chemicals. It wasn't designed to detoxify these artificial chemicals. So you may have to give it a boost with Live Clear 1, Live Clear 2. I also think at least a couple times a year people ought to do a complete detoxification, maybe just getting on raw fruits and vegetables, and then taking products like our Live Clear 1 and 2. And we have detox powders, and they can minimize the side effects of detox. Some people say, oh, I went on a fast, or I just did juices, and I got a terrible headache, and all these other symptoms. Well, that's because your liver wasn't able to detox fast enough. So taking Live Clear 1 and 2, very, very important. So there are a lot of products that can help you. But also we do have treatments. If you have neurological problems, it may be from toxic metals, maybe from food allergies, which we didn't even mention, maybe from toxic chemicals, pesticides. We actually have treatments that can assist your body in getting rid of these items that may be causing your neurological problems. And food allergies can be a major factor in things like Parkinson's or multiple sclerosis. I used to put on very large health expos. Some of you may have attended them. Anyone? I know Marlene attended them. Marlene attended them back 30-some years ago. I guess we're dating ourselves. I'll be 68 in February. Anyhow, I used to put on these large health expos, and we had a speaker. He never came to Pittsburgh, but we had him in other places, Dr. Marshall Mandel. And he wrote a book talking about food allergies affecting people. And so he actually used to show these videos of people that had multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's, and then he would test them and figure out what food allergies they had and got them off those foods, and within a week, their symptoms had greatly diminished or actually totally went away. So eating the wrong foods, and they might be considered healthy foods, but they might be wrong for you, can adversely affect the functioning. We do have sheets, I talked on that the other day, sheets that list all the different possible symptoms of food allergies. You can have attention deficit, autism, irritable bowel syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis, skin problems, mood swings, just all kinds of things can be related to food sensitivities. Now, how are you going to figure that out? Well, one of the ways we do it here is by muscle testing. And so there's nothing invasive. We don't stick anything inside of you. And we found that blood tests for food allergies are not reliable. We do sometimes prescribe blood work for other conditions, but not necessarily for food allergies, because we found those tests are not reliable for food allergies. We need to mention underactive thyroid. If you have an undiagnosed underactive thyroid, or if you're on Synthroid and it's not working, you may end up having cognitive changes where you can't remember things. In fact, an extreme expression of this is called Cretinism. Maybe you've heard that term. So, let's say you have mildly underactive thyroid, maybe you have cold hands, cold feet, dry skin, weak nails, trouble concentrating, trouble remembering things, constipation, elevated cholesterol, weight gain, or trouble losing weight. These are just some of the common symptoms of underactive thyroid. And you can have a normal thyroid blood panel and still have an underactive thyroid. So we put together a product called Iodine Plus. I take that every day because I'm worried about losing my hair. And so I take Iodine Plus twice a day because that's another possible symptom of underactive thyroid. And a lot of people are very deficient in iodine. So these are some of the suggestions. So we have treatments that can help you. We have all these different products that I mentioned that can help you. And then you also have to try to eliminate things like the aluminum and tap water and commercial produce that's loaded with pesticides. And of course, animals are loaded with all kinds of toxins. And animals basically store these toxins. So if you're eating beef or chicken or fish, you may be getting all kinds of contaminants. You've heard about mercury in the fish. And mercury is a neurological poison. Many of you might have silver mercury fillings, and that could be causing problems. Dr. Hal Huggins wrote a whole book, It's All in Your Head, which is a play on that term where doctors say that you're just making it up, but actually it may be the fillings in your teeth causing a lot of neurological and various other problems like regular heartbeat or high blood pressure, etc. And of course, there's mercury and other toxins like aluminum in the vaccines. And there's only 3 things you need to know about vaccines. They're not required to go to school, they're dangerous, and they don't work. And we do have information on all of that for free over on the metal spindle where we have the free literature. Now, I've got a few minutes for questions. This gentleman had a question. What's your question, sir?
Yes, your super shakes, is that the same thing, just different flavors, all of them? Or is each-
The Super Shake, yeah, the flavors are, the base of them is the same. You know, we have the one called Naked, which means there's no flavoring, and then we have the chocolate, we have the banana strawberry, we have the peanut butter, we've got vanilla, a bunch of different flavors in that. And that's what I use every day, because I want to, you know, I look at food and gain weight. My metabolism is so slow now, apparently. You know, when I was a kid, I was very underweight, and I could eat like a horse and nothing happened to me. Well, somewhere in my 30s, I started gaining weight. And by the time I got up to my early 60s, I was 235 pounds. So then a few years ago, I decided I got to do something about it. And so Super Shake and some of the other things like berry tone and the Garcinia kombucha and the tonalline plus exercise, and I lost 70 pounds in a matter of like 4.5 months. In fact, I bought these suits when I was at my lowest, and I'm still able to get them on. They're slightly tighter. I think I could probably stand to lose 5 or 10 pounds, but you know, I used to wear a size 40 waist, and now I'm down to 32. And even this belt, I'm on the 5th hole. I don't know if you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm on the 5th hole of this belt. I had to keep changing belts out every couple months, getting smaller belts. So yeah, the Super Shake, excellent product as a meal replacement. And it's very low allergenicity because it's made out of rice, pea, and pumpkin protein. It dissolves readily. We do have those shaker bottles. If you buy enough, we'll give you a shaker bottle. But I just stir it into, I stir it. I don't even have to shake it. It dissolves so readily. Delicious, too. Do you have a question, ma'am?
Yeah, kidney stones.
Kidney stones?
I picked up these.
Okay, the FOS food is good. Yeah, you take like 10 to 20 drops a day. That tincture you have, Cane-B tincture. You can also do magnesium, which helps to prevent the formation of stones. And so yeah, and then also B6 is helpful for trying to not form stones. And then you have to look at your diet. You may be on refined carbohydrates, milk products. Milk products are not very helpful. Cow's milk products, I'd stay away from them.
So take what?
Yeah, I would say those 2 things, the FOS food and the Cane-B tincture. We also have a KDY tea there if you want to get it. It's a tea. It's called KDY tea, like kidney.
Oh, okay.
It's a tea. It's very inexpensive. You mix it, and that helps dissolve stones.
So this is 10 drops 3 times a day?
I would do 10 drops maybe twice a day. Yeah. Okay, other questions? Yes.
Okay, your pro greens, pro purples, all of those powders.
Mm-hmm.
Take your Knox gelatin and make a jello out of it.
Okay, hold on here. Marlene?
Yes. Your pro greens, your pro whatever, purples, and get your Knox gelatin. Take the 4 little packages that's in there and put that in your bowl and put your cold water and add all of your powders. Then add the water, the 4 cups of water, and you've got the best jello. You don't have to make no shakes, no nothing. You can have it for breakfast, you can have it for a snack, You can put fruit in it. I have a bowl in the refrigerator all the time. It's delicious.
Good suggestion. Of course, when she's saying Knox gelatin, you want to get the clear stuff. You
Yeah,
don't
the
want to
clear
get Jello that has the artificial
No,
flavorings and sugar and all that stuff. Also, you can make ice cubes out of the reds, purples, greens, oranges. You put it in kids' drinks, or if you're drinking iced tea or something, you can make ice cubes out of it. And you're getting at least 30 different nutrients in each one of those different cans of powder. So they're the reds, the purples, the greens, and the oranges. Other suggestions or questions? Yes.
Get the vitamin D so that your brain is functioning good with the vitamin D. You
D as in dog, vitamin D, are you asking?
D3, you get your blood work up high. Do you still need the other supplements for the brain?
Well, yeah, vitamin D is just one of many nutrients. I mean, there's hundreds of nutrients we need. And so the brain boosting acuity will really help with brain function. Yeah, but vitamin D3 is one of the vitamins that the doctors are now acknowledging that most people are deficient in. And of course, low vitamin D is associated with multiple sclerosis.
Well, folks, there you have it. The icon, Dr. James Weiner, one of his greatest hits, as promised, brain health. Yeah. And we got to hear about his cocktail, his morning cocktail, that we knew all about in that big glass mug. Remember that?
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to be reminded.
Yeah.
Just a little hint of nostalgia, and I mean, it's just, I remember all those years of working with him, and just look where we've come, look where we've progressed to, and it's just like he was who he was. I mean, what can we say? I mean, we wax superlatives. What can I say that hasn't already been said?
Yeah.
But here we are. We had the anniversary last week. It's 4 years past his death. We have just a great group of people practicing here, seeing patients who everybody does something just different enough, but just synergistic enough that we share patients and push people around. Like I see people as it pertains to my expertise, but it doesn't mean I can do it all. So I have some musculoskeletal patients that I've referred to Dr. Phil for laser treatments, and I've had plenty of people that I've sent to both Dr. Ashley and to Jeff for nutrition, and so we work very well together, but we don't do the same things. And when Dr. Weiner was here, we really actually had a narrower scope of what we did. And that's very true. It's in no way, shape, or form to denigrate him or to put him down or to criticize what he accomplished or belittle what he accomplished. I'm just saying that, time moves on and you have to grow with the times, and that's exactly what we're doing. And we still, to this day, you walk into the building, I mean, you don't see a big statue or a Hall of Fame bust to Dr. Weiner, but his presence is very much here in Phelps.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's what has to happen. You hit right on it. Growth. You have to evolve. You have to grow. And sometimes the catalyst to the growth is something that is
bad news.
Bad news.
Yeah.
So when we lost Doc, it was now what happens? Well, obviously you took up a big slack right off the bat, but then we had to grow the practice and add in different modalities so that we became better and stronger.
Absolutely. And that's what you see. That's what you see when you walk in, and when you don't see the behind the scenes people. Like I don't know if we've ever taken a moment to just publicly acknowledge what June Perucci does here. I mean, she's been the bookkeeper long since before I started.
20 years.
Yeah.
Maybe longer.
Sonia's probably getting dangerously close to double digits years here. Holly and
dangerously close.
Well, I haven't crossed that threshold myself. Holly and Kylie are both new, like within the past month or 3 months, and look at how efficiently they're both working during the sale. I mean, this December sale is our busiest week of the year because of the spacing until the next one. It's 3 months instead of 2, and they both just work like they've been here doing this their whole careers.
We're still getting the orders out the back.
That's right. Monica and Mike, and I know they have a little bit of help from the Nutritional Frontiers warehouse and stock people to make it all happen, but this our postal guy will usually bring his private car to come here, and during sales weeks he comes with a van.
Yeah.
So that should say how much work those people are doing. And I didn't even mention Ariana
And Heidi.
And Heidi comes in.
Heidi comes in on the sales.
Right.
She's sporting a great Christmas sweater today.
A former full-time employee who life had her move on to other things, but she still comes back to help with the sale. And those people they deserve credit. I mean, every single workshop is about what kind of supplement, maybe a group, how do we take care of inflammation? We can't answer that with one supplement.
Right.
We can have a workshop based on one supplement. We can have a workshop based on mechanical care here and the laser. And we don't spend enough time to acknowledge people who really, really help drive the engine in a way that they just deserve credit for and they go overlooked.
Well, we say all the time that, look, you don't have to come in. We want you to come in. But if you want to call your orders in, you want to email your orders in.
Can accommodate.
Yeah. How do we accommodate them is from those people in the back working hard every single day to help get those orders out the door. So we couldn't do it without them.
And when you consider the volume of foot traffic passing in and out of the building, it's unbelievably clean. I mean, the floors are well maintained, the carpeting is well maintained, the shelves are dusted. I've seen people dusting shelves. I mean, that has to go acknowledged.
Yeah,
the behind the scenes hard workers who just should be getting more credit than they're getting.
Yeah, and that happens all the time. Front lines, back lines. Even in professional sports, I heard commentators talking about MVPs for a football team should be someone on the offensive or defensive line every year.
That's right,
because their accomplishments don't get acknowledged.
The
same thing.
The dirtier the offensive lineman's uniform is, the cleaner the quarterback.
Cleaner the quarterback,
something like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, just the unsung heroes.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course that doesn't take away from the services. The services are still our bread and butter. It's what people keep coming in the door for. Sure, the nutrition store is one of the best in the area, if not the country. But still, it all centers around the health and the services.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you measure the square footage of our nutrition store and you just count up how many different products we have. I mean, not what do we have in stock today versus last week, but just like different products that we carry. I mean, I don't know. We have to outrank any GNC. We have to outrank all the vitamins. I mean, these are the pop culture chain nutrition stores, and I'm not ragging on their product. I mean, they sell good stuff, but in terms of here's what I'm looking for, do you have it available? I think we're in better shape than they are.
No, I mean, places like that, like GNC, and they have a lot of retail-oriented lines where we do have some, but the bulk and of what we offer here are professional grade. Yeah, that's one of the big differences. Right. The whole outer wall of the nutrition store is professional. Right. So right. You know where to go. That's where they are.
I mean, it's a superior product, and other people have good enough, just good enough.
Good enough. Yeah.
So we can't.
Exactly. So it's unusual. I got to say, it's unusual for a doc to even have a few open minutes to come in and spend more time with us. Yeah. Because his schedule is usually packed from morning till night. So it's great that you were able to come out and have a few more minutes, because people need to know that you're the anchor here. You've been the anchor here. You were the anchor here even before we lost doc, because time spent. Yeah. You were seeing full schedules even then, right? I was
seeing a full schedule. I remember leaving the South Side that we started when I started with Dr. Weiner. We were in a building on 1320 Carson Street, and you start new, and people like, I don't know, should I try the new guy? Well, Dr. Weiner said he's here. If Dr. Weiner wouldn't bring in somebody who's not. So it started in little trickles. But I remember when I first started, Dr. Weiner told me, if you're not busy with patients, help stock the shelves. That way you'll know where all the products are and you'll be able to help people in the store, which was actually a pretty good idea. And I remember that transition point where I went from, I see patients here full time, and sometimes I help out stocking shelves. So I remember that threshold. And I remember when we moved to this building, thinking to myself, like, gee, I hope all these people come with us. I don't want to be stocking shelves most of the day anymore. And sure enough, I mean, everybody came along, and I've had maybe not a full packed dense book, but I've had very busy days from before we moved into this building. And so there's room with a little creative scheduling. I get to make an appearance here, and with a little creative scheduling, we get new patients in and accommodate those people. But it's by and large, I mean, I have a really good problem. I have loyal patients who they understand what we're working on together, and they've bought into the program that I've explained, and it works. It
Absolutely works. You know, that's such a great comment about Doc when he said, when you're not busy, stock shelves, not to be busy,
Right, but
to learn.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Awesome. That's
Like
such a great
I
point.
was my experience working in the profession prior to joining Dr. Weiner had been all musculoskeletal and neuromusculoskeletal nutrition. Like I'd studied a little bit of nutrition, but not this level, and not like I was new. This level of nutrition was new to me. So there were a lot of times where I would stock shelves and I'm looking at a product like, what is this? And I'd take a bottle of it to my room and start Googling the ingredients in it and making notes and studying what's what. And Dr. Weiner would see me doing that and like, man, I created a monster. So,
well, I'll tell you another thing though, you know, as we just witnessed with Doc when he would do his workshops during the wellness week, he never used a PowerPoint, you know, just got up there and used his brain. Well, you followed in those footsteps as well. I mean, we all used PowerPoints, but not Dr. Orbach. He went up there and just talked from his head, from his experience, from his heart, and just like Dr. Weiner did. So torch was passed.
Yeah. I hopefully I'm running with it in a way that does the man proud.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I just look at these workshops and presentations as it's an interactive conversation. I mean, when we would be here in a pre-COVID world, we'd have a crowded room and
standing room only.
Right, and people would be asking questions, and sometimes people would be blurting out answers before I even asked the question, and you just didn't know what you were going to get. So I know we should be wrapping it up, but I just want to make sure to say that if you want to participate with us, if you do have questions of us about the logistics of how we're doing things, or if you want to even share a Dr. Weiner memory, I mean, you type it in on the sideboard there.
Type it in. Come on
share
in.
Come
on
on
in
in
and talk about it. And you mentioned about doing those live workshops, and we had, of course, the room set up a lot differently back then. We had rows of chairs here that we had people coming in and sitting. Stadium. I wonder how our director, producer, cinematographer, and editor would have been able to handle a crowd.
I don't know. He's a pretty talented guy. He'd have figured it out. Yeah, but I mean, it would have been a different challenge.
Yeah, it would. I think we'll get there again.
Yeah,
definitely.
Today's not the day.
Get there again. Yep. But it's been
fun.
great. Yep, man. We've got one more day tomorrow. We still have another workshop coming up at 11. Yeah, Caroline Golmick at 11, and we have our round table. Who you never know who could pop in for the round table. So everybody's welcome, and anybody's welcome, and we'll finish off the day with that today. One more day tomorrow, folks. Lots of great speakers again. Mostly the home team. We got a new guy in there, Paul Neville.
I don't know him.
Yeah, Paul Neville is an old running buddy of Jamie's throughout the years, but great gym, bodybuilder, fitness guy, and has had great success using the nutrition kits that we provide for him. So he's going to bring some insight into that area, the fitness area, which runs hand in hand with what we do.
Right. Well, it started to more and more that we did so much work with organic visceral health in terms of nutrition over the years, and probably more so in the last year, but probably in the last 2 years, we started to make a move to include more sports nutrition and more recovery from workout drinks. And I mean, you can start to see more and more of our shoppers have baggy hooded clothes and muscles that fill out those baggy hooded clothes.
They sure do.
Yeah. So we're branching out. It's part of the growth. We want to make ourselves available and attract all different types of demographics. And the only way to do that is to have what people need and make sure they're aware that it's present here.
And you've worked with athletes all
Yeah.
throughout your career,
Yeah.
so it's just natural that we help supply and
Right.
support the other aspects,
Yeah.
of their life.
Yeah.
So that's it for today on this one. We'll be back in a few minutes with Caroline Golmick, and stay tuned. More workshops to come. The Wellness Week, the Winter Wonderland, goes through tomorrow, folks. If you haven't come down yet, come on down and experience it. We want to see you.